Here it is, folks, the all-inclusive Mega Man Marathon. I've been waiting to do this for quite some time now. You see, I have a personal history with the Mega Man franchise. My dad once got me a Wii when I was 8 years old, actually. Christmas 2008 to be exact. And we looked through the Virtual Console because we saw that games were 10th of the price for regular games. So we decided to pick up Mega Man 1 and 2. I beat Mega Man 1 within about a week. I don't know how, because I sit 20-year-olds in front of this game, and they can't even beat the first stage that they play. Aside from that, Mega Man was released in 1987 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And that console is one of the reasons that I have become such a retro gamer in my time. In fact, this Nintendo itself is the only reason that this fridge even works. Despite the fact that the game didn't sell well, the developers decided to make a sequel of the game out of their own spare time. Capcom wanted to leave Mega Man in the dust, work on other games like Street Fighter in the 1942 series. But we'll talk about that game next week, because this is Mega Man on the NES. Now before we get started, I want to clarify a little bit about the all-inclusive Mega Man Marathon. I will be covering every core game in the Mega Man franchise, all Classic, X, Zero, ZX, Legends, Battle Network, and Star Force. I will also be covering spin-off games such as Mega Man Soccer, Mega Man Base, the arcade games, and Mega Man Battle and Chase. But I won't be including stuff like Rockman and Forte Challenger from the future since I don't have access to a Wonder Swan, and most of them are pretty bad anyway and not worth your time. I'd also like to tell you that I'm not going to be doing any games I can't physically access, like the DOS Mega Man games, or Rockman Gold Empire or Rockman Strategy, since those, on top of the last two not being released in America, are not easily accessible and are a real pain in the rear to get working. Lastly, I won't be covering any of the mobile games, since usually they're just time suckers and not the most ideal way of playing games, since they all rely on touch controls, which don't really work most of the time in my experience, so I'll be ruling those out as well. Now before we even pop the game into the system, you can tell that this box art is just atrocious. I mean, if you even played the game, you would know that Mega Man has no yellow on him whatsoever. He also doesn't have a gun, he has an arm cannon, which is embedded in his arm, not an actual gun. Man, this box art just seems like it was made in about 6 hours because it was needed for the next day. Wait a second. Are you serious? That's exactly what happened? Wow, Capcom really didn't put much effort into trying to get a box art that looked good. No wonder the sales for this game are so bad. Heck, that's the reason Keiji Inafune blames this game for selling so poorly, is because the box art was so bad. Now, with the game, Mega Man instantly starts off with his bland title screen. I really don't like it. It's just the title. It's not that big of a deal, but it does instantly show that this game is probably the most bland in comparison to the rest of the series. But I'm not going to dog on this game since they fix this in future games. The first thing that you'll see gameplay-wise is a stage select, and as I said before, you can select any boss in any order you want. Usually I'll suggest facing Bomb Man first, but ever since I figured out this little cheese pattern with Fireman, I usually start with him because it's so easy. Not to mention that I hate taking down Gutsman with the Hyper Bomb, and I'd rather use the Firestorm. The Hyper Bomb's downside is that it has a delayed effect of explosion. I don't like waiting for it because usually Gutsman just jumps out of the way every time I use it. Why do you keep jumping out of my bombs? I just want to kill you! Speaking of the other weapons, I love the Elect Beam. It's able to shoot in multiple directions and it has a high amount of damage output. I also love this Firestorm, as I said, because of the shield that it gives you. Sometimes it actually glitches out on me and it gives me a shield for the whole screen, and even if I don't move for like a minute, it'll just stay there. It's super weird. The super arm is okay because of the fact that I can toss blocks, but they only work when said blocks are around you. The rolling cutter is okay. I usually use it to take down these grounded enemies that you'll find around the game, usually in a Lekman stage, but they also die to the firestorm, so usually I'll just use that. But lastly, we have the magnet beam. The magnet beam is one of the best things in this game. I love using it to skip the disappearing, reappearing block puzzles in Iceman's stage, as well as the big old gap that's in his stage that you usually have to jump across these platforms that shoot and can possibly hit you off with knockback. And like I said earlier, I hate knockback, so the magnet beam is knockback haters' best friend. And I love bum rushing through this game with some of these weapons, man. If you know where the enemies are gonna pop out of and you know exactly what weapon to use, you can just fly by them, obliterating them, scaring Wily to death as you pass by with murderous intent. Bent on giving Wily a good old fist shaking because you decide not to take him in. Because Mega Man is stupid. Why would you not bring in a mastermind criminal who tried to hijack multiple robots to take over multiple cities? Because you are dumb. You run away. You go back to Dr. Light's house thinking nothing has happened. And I will forever say this until we get to Mega Man 6, where Mega Man decides to bring in the power of rope technology. As Gutsman keeps jumping away from my bombs, you'll see that these sprites are so clean and that they rarely flicker, and that there's barely any slowdown in the game at all. This is the case throughout the entire series, and it only goes up in quality from here. So seeing that the game is already this nice looking through Mega Man 1 is very promising for the 5 games to come on this platform. And behind those stages are some rockin' tunes. Man, do I love the Mega Man soundtrack, and I love the franchise's music in general. You'll hear one of the best soundtracks in this game when you go through these stages. Bomb Man, Guts Man, Elec Man, Wily 1. These themes are really good, especially when you hear the crazy amount of covers of them on YouTube. You'll hear a wide variety of genres like metal, rock, jazz, and even rap. Yeah, there was a guy who made rap music about Mega Man. It's pretty good too. Now I have to give a special shout out to my boy Met. He has been doing Mega Man guitar playthroughs for years now, and he's done Mega Man 1 through 9, X1 through X5, 0, and is currently working on 0 2. And they are great. I'm going to leave his channel down in the description, and you guys go listen to that after this review's done, because it is heaven to your ears. Sadly, there are a few problems with this game that I just can't get over, one of which is knockback. There is so much knockback. I hate it. Castlevania, Zelda 2, Ninja Gaiden, anything with knockback just pisses me off. However, the rest of the Mega Man series gets a pass on this one, since I normally get invincibility frames from it, and I won't die instantly upon touching spikes. But this game gets no pass, as you instantly die when you touch spikes at any time. Therefore, steer clear of any spikes whatsoever, though this section in Bomb Man stage can suck it, because it's unavoidable and usually where I die when I end up doing a random playthrough of this game. Other than that, there's nothing functionally wrong with this game, although the only other thing I can think of is the pause glitch, but that's more useful to cheese the Yellow Devil since no one wants to be around that thing anyway. Now, the NES isn't the only place you can play Mega Man 1. As I alluded to in the introduction of this video, there's some pretty cool collections on other platforms, such as the Anniversary Collection on the Xbox, GameCube, and PS2, which allows you to play Mega Man 1 through 8 and the 2 previously arcade-exclusive games. There's also the Legacy Collection, which allows you to play 1 through 6 on any current generation platform. But these aren't my completely preferred ways to play Mega Man 1. But usually I'll end up booting up the Legacy Collection out of convenience. My preferred way is to play the Rockman Complete Works port on the PS1. There's remixed music for the 2 arcade games that are ported over into this version, and it makes going through the stages that much more sweet. However, the biggest improvement in this version is the compatibility with the Pocket Station, basically a Dreamcast-like VMU which allows you to modify the stats of yourself and the Robot Masters to either make the game easier or harder for yourself, which can also be affected by the addition of difficulty selection. There's also saved games so that you don't have to play the game in one sitting in order to finish it, which is great for those who are inexperienced who would like to be able to clear a stage or two and move on with their day. The only downside to this version is that it wasn't ever ported over to America on the original PlayStation. However, there is a version without the Pocket Station support on the PS3 store, which is still a great port of the game to play. None of these collections or ports really do much to the core gameplay, but that's where Mega Man Powered Up comes in for the PlayStation Portable. This game completely revises the gameplay, visuals, and sound, as well as adding 2 new Robot Masters in the form of Time Man and Oil Man, bringing the count up to 8, lining it up with the rest of the series. I love the added challenges of playable characters, since you can actually play the game with the Robot Masters if you defeat them with only the Mega Buster, along with the ability to play as Roland Proto Man. Unfortunately, this game does make a few changes for the worse, such as not being able to shoot through walls, as well as introducing an intro stage. And I will say this now, intro stages are completely useless in the classic Mega Man series, but completely worthwhile in the X series. I think you can easily learn how to jump and shoot with only 2 buttons when playing the game normally. I did, and I was 8 years old and played the original NES version through Virtual Console, so I don't think it was worth it to introduce an intro stage. However, the redeeming factor about the intro stage is that it was allowing for story development, which was completely skipped over in the original NES release, seeing that this version shows how Wily was resentful about his past with Light, which was only poorly explained in the manual for the original release, so it's really nice to see that they cared to update the story with the times, as quality management was much more prevalent in 2006 than it was in 1987. Oh, Sonic 06. I guess we still make mistakes as a society occasionally. Overall, Mega Man's first outing was a rather pleasant one. I admit that I was a bit biased with this game due to the fact that it's my first retro game, but hey, I mean, we all have those games. I highly suggest if you haven't played it that you pick up the Legacy Collection. It's on the Xbox One, PS4, Switch, 3DS, PC, it's on everything. Anniversary Collection, Virtual Console, get it, it's a great game. And heck, while you're at it, just get every other game. Now, Mega Man 2. It's going to be a little interesting to see my thoughts about this game. Who am I kidding? I've played through this game 30 times. It's going to be great. Check back next week when I review Mega Man 2 on the NES.